Watch this.
This is a bill that I would describe as a true school choice program.
Will the real true school choice bill please stand up? To tell the truth, it's getting hard to tell which one's the front runner these days. Which one does what? How much will that one cost? And now there's a new one? If it's getting more difficult to get the drugs to put convicted people to death, well, the Idaho legislature has an answer for that. An idea to make the firing squad the main form of execution ahead of lethal injection is flying through the State House faster than a, well, you know.
Right now, there are no clear rules for reporting cloud seeding activities in Idaho.
But it's not like anyone can just be out here seeding clouds, can they? Well, maybe not anymore, with at least one lawmaker worried about weather modification. Wait, is that a thing? There are now two distinct public money for private education school choice bills working through the State House. Senate Bill 1025 was sent through the Senate Education Committee Monday, and House Bill 93 passed out of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee yesterday. And one would think they could be in a race or on a collision course toward the governor's office. But that's, of course, we're assuming each bill clears its own floor, and then each chamber takes the other side's version seriously. And for the last few years, these bills have come up. Several things have happened. The majority of those who testify or email lawmakers, vast majority of them, are opposed to them. And we also get several questions about them, which is what happened yesterday when we covered the House version. Like this one. Why not base school choice money on Idaho tax forms? If parents make more than, say, X number of dollars, they do not qualify for public money, says Sandy in Meridian. Well, Sandy, both of these bills kind of sort of do that. Both House Bill 93 and Senate Bill 1025 give priority to lower income families. With 93, that tax credit bill, that would favor families making less than $94,000 a year. And with 1025, the expansion of the Empowering Parents Program bill, 75% of its grants would go to those under the $60,000 a year threshold. After that, well, both bills then just open up applications to everyone. How about this question? How much will these two bills cost to administer, which will reduce total dollars for the state budget for other needed items, says Rick. Well, Rick, neither says the state will take a long-term hit when it comes to administration costs, although the tax credit bill, that would be House Bill 93, would ask for a one-time $125,000 bump from the general fund to set up the computer system to run the program. That program, according to the bill sponsors, will then be run by two full-time tax commission employees. With two openings at the agency right now, they say that money is already covered under that budget. As for the Senate Bill 1025, since it would exist under the two-year-old Empowering Parents program, well, their administration costs would be covered under their established $600,000 budget. Those aren't the only differences, though, between these two bills. Senate Bill 1025.
The education system that has served us so well, we may have come to a point where it's time to hit the reset button.
And House Bill 93.
And school choice, first and foremost, is about kids and families, and it's not about the type of school or the type of system.
Both could cost the state of Idaho $50 million. With House Bill 93, it's more of an addition by subtraction, though.
We don't know fully what the demand will be.
While not withdrawing money from the general fund, with a tax credit, there's a potential for $50 million not being added to it.
Or if you're familiar with funding in districts, you know that there's a certain amount of money that goes towards special ed, but often that money is inadequate of the cost.
With Senate Bill 1025, $30 million of that will go towards special education to help fill that $80 million gap in state funding. The other $20 million will be added to the existing Empowering Parents program. With that extra money, it would raise the yearly Empowering grants from $1,000 per student to $5,000. But there's a cap of $15,000 per family. As for House Bill 93, each family could claim up to $5,000 per student or $7,500 for special needs students. But there's no ceiling.
You have to have actually incurred the expenses.
So a family could claim a tax credit for 5 kids, and that could mean $25,000 in public money going to private school education. Both bills give a priority to lower income families. But for 1025, it's a bit lower. 95% of the money would be reserved for those making less than $80,000 a year. With 93, that preference goes to families living at 300% of the poverty level, or $93,600 a year.
If they want to participate with public dollars, we as policymakers have a stewardship to be accountable for those dollars.
As for accountability, well, one has more than the other. With 1025, the eligible expenses must follow empowering parents guidelines. The private school has to be accredited by the state board, and they have to comply with special education, parental rights, and non-discrimination laws. Non-public schools do have to keep enrollment and performance data. They also have to offer a national standardized test and complete criminal background checks on employees. Those rules don't apply to 93.
The accountability built into this legislation also starts and ends with parents.
However, qualified non-public schools will have to teach the basic subjects. That'd be English, math, science, and social studies. But private schools do not have to change their admissions policies or their curriculum. While they don't have to show performance through testing, parents who homeschool their kids must keep a record to show students' growth
That demonstrates that those 4 academic subjects were covered in the instruction.
and all parents must fill out a satisfaction and engagement survey. So there's a survey. Currently, the Empowering Parents program does not allow for grant money to be used for private school tuition. This would change that if that bill goes forward. And with House Bill 93, the tax credit would be retroactive to the 1st of this year. And lower income families who currently can't afford private school, well, they can apply for a one-time advance tax payment. There's an option to get that, to get them started on that program. But just to add a little more fun into the mix, and since it's unsure if either side of the State House will play nice with the other's bill, there was a third school choice option introduced today. And this one brings us back to vouchers. This morning, Representative Lance Clouse stepped to the podium in the House Education Committee and laid out his Idaho Education Opportunity Program, what he calls the true school choice option.
Some people would say we have choice. We have public schools, we have charter schools, we have home schools, we have open enrollment, and we have private schools, and the people currently have a choice at all those things. However, low-income families often have single parents who would find several of these choices very difficult to reach out and bring to reality.
So Representative Clouse said with House Bill 164, funding would follow the student, meaning 80% of what the state spends per student could now go with that student to another private school. 20% then would stay with the school district where that student lives. Right now, that would be about $6,750 going into an account, and the district would then get about $1,700. Now, stop me if this kind of sounds remarkably familiar, similar to the Freedom and Education Savings Account bill the Senate tried to run in 2023. And if you think that, well, you're right. It is a school voucher. However, Cloud did change a couple of things with this current bill. Like special ed students would get 100% of the funding, or $8,440. If you're enrolled in a private school already, like right now, well, then you're not eligible for this program. But you could qualify for a tax credit under this bill. And homeschool students who take part in this voucher program, well, they would no longer technically be a homeschool student because they'd be required to take a standardized test. And get this, money left over in the account would then be able to be rolled over year to year, and it could be used for post-high school education. So how much would this bill cost? Well, according to the, fiscal, the fiscal accruement here would be $21 million for the voucher program, and then another $8.7 million in lost income for tax revenue. So again, we'll kind of see which way these things go. We're still watching those two front runners that are in the Senate and the House, but this one could come up from behind and pass them. We'll see. All right, when it comes to serving justice in the Gem State, capital punishment justice, that means Idaho lawmakers, well, they kind of like to go a little Old Testament. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth kind of thing, which is why there's been some frustration with the failed execution of convicted serial killer Thomas Creech, combined with the recent difficulty in getting the drugs used for lethal injection. Finding a vein, though, won't really be a problem if lawmakers get their way. Right, Joe?
Yeah, the method of execution that they're going for doesn't need a vein to be successful.
Right.
By a vote of 58-11 and one lawmaker absent today, the full Idaho House passed a bill that makes the firing squad the primary method of execution in Idaho. The proposal lays out that if, for whatever reason, the firing squad can't be used, maybe a court at some point says you can't do that anymore, Maybe they ran out of bullets, I don't know, but they would default as a secondary method to lethal injection. The failed execution of Thomas Creech, though, is only one factor into the legislation. In recent years, the state of Idaho has also struggled to buy the drug pentobarbital, which is used for lethal injection. Long story short, the companies that manufacture it or are capable of manufacturing it, they wanted to get out of the death penalty business. So the Department of Correction controls how it would actually work, that being the firing squad. Bill sponsor Representative Bruce Skog explains on the floor today what the director of the Department of Corrections told him in terms of function, and then Representative Skog argues why the firing squad is a legally easier method.
He plans to do a mechanized version of the firing squad, so there won't be a lineup of people holding rifles. The appeals that have gone on for our two who are currently furthest on towards the death penalty actually being carried out, the appeals all had to do with how the intravenous injection would interact with their bodies and their current medications and that type of thing, that it would be painful, cause issues. That all goes away with firing squad.
Lawmakers have already allocated $750,000 to remodel or build an appropriate firing squad facility at the Idaho Department of Corrections. They're working on it. Meanwhile, Representative John Gannon, Democrat from Boise, in debate, questioned the overall cost that could be mounting and argues that there's no reason to change the method.
I really don't understand what the problem is with the lethal injection versus the firing squad, first of all. And second, I don't understand why $1 million expense is happening for this facility. You can build a gorgeous, gorgeous mansion for $1 million. And I don't know why a firing squad facility is costing so much.
So different perspectives there, and the state of Idaho right now is one of 5 states that allows the firing squad. If this legislation were to become law, it would make Idaho the only state in the union that has firing squad as the primary method. Just around the nation, if you look, state of Utah, they have firing squad as a backup, or people can choose to have that for their sentence if they were sentenced before the year 2004. South Carolina has as a choice, Oklahoma, a final option. Same with the state of Mississippi, but Brian, Idaho would essentially be the only state where by default it would be the mechanical firing squad that would carry out. First choice, yeah.
I believe it was Utah who was the last state to use the firing squad in execution back in 2010, I think.
Yeah, so, it's been a while.
But it's still been there. That's recent when you think about it. Wow. All right. We'll see what happens. Thanks, Joe.
Currently, silver iodide is released from equipment on the ground and from planes to help spur snow formation. The silver iodide acts like a seed and gives snow crystals a surface to grow on. In order for this process to be effective, the storms have to be cold enough and bring enough moisture.
So we're just nudging Mother Nature with a process that it is already wanting to do.
Just nudging Mother Nature. Cloud seeding. It's been a practice. It's been boosting snow totals in Idaho for more than 20 years. Actually, it was first pioneered in Idaho by Idaho Power. The practice, though, has come a long way since the 1990s. It's even garnered enough popularity for the state to collaborate with Idaho Power and local water users to keep that practice going. But where and how often is this happening? Senator Tammy Nichols thinks those things should be more transparent, and Hunter Funk joins us now to tell us how, well, I guess Senator Nichols wants to make this happen.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of nailed it there. In the Senate Ag Affairs Committee today, Senator Nichols read one bill about cloud seeding and another about weather modification. Now, the cloud seeding bill looks to have more transparency, requiring the Idaho Water Resource Board to write up reports about where the seeding took place, what materials were used, and how it affects the environment. It also asks the board to post these on their website and present them in public meetings so people know what's going on. But after all of these years, why are they asking for those reports right now?
We are seeing bans going on cloud seeding all over the United States right now, and we don't want to lose that because we are giving tax dollars to this entity to perform that. We want to make sure that the public understands where that money is being spent and that there's complete transparency.
Now, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, 9 states use cloud seeding or weather modification activities, and 10 have banned or are considering banning it. Tennessee did ban weather modification activities, now charging fines for those who do it. But North Dakota, Indiana, Arizona, and Florida are only introducing the idea this legislative session. The reason why they want to ban it, well, they're tired of government controlling the weather and view it as inefficient and harmful to the environment. So while it's not every state, it is being discussed, and that's where Nichols believes the report will help keep the process transparent and keep the program alive. Though Senator Dave Lent and Ron Taylor echoed the same message today, saying this adds a layer of government they don't believe needs to be there. It's those same concerns that the two had about the weather modification bill, which would make it unlawful for anyone to engage in weather modification or solar radiation management activities within Idaho. Cloud seeding operations, though, that are authorized by Idaho Water Resource Board would be the only ones able to do it. Now, Nichols says it would provide oversight to protect Idaho from the unregulated risks. Both were approved to be printed and introduced into committee, but Senator Lent and Taylor says Nichols will need to come back with stronger, more scientific argument in order for that bill to pass. Brian, I also reached out to the Department of Water Resources. Now, they said they're not commenting on this during the legislative process, but they did send out an email that kind of laid out everything. It sounds like they're already doing some of these reports based on that website.
Okay.
They have annual reports. They have monthly reports telling you where and how and when and how many, all listed online.
Yeah, okay. Well, and I can understand wanting to see more evidence with this because there are a lot of conspiracy theories that are tied up with this. Even the fact that it's like the contrails and all that kind of stuff. But this nudging of Mother Nature, some people use this to kind of combat climate change right now and are looking at it. So, yeah, I can understand the need for, let's really kind of hone in on why we need
scientific arguments.
All right. Thanks, Hunter. Oh, we're not finished with the legislature just yet. No, no, no. Sorry to disappoint some of you. And we are as well because, you know, we like to bring a broad arrangement of stories, but there's still a few more bills to talk about today in today's 411, like a statewide ban on phones in schools. How about maybe adding the Bible to schools? Audrielle Tackett tells us more in today's 411.
Today, the NCAA said it's limiting women's sports competition to only athletes assigned as female at birth. The decision comes one day after President Trump signed an executive order targeting transgender athletes in women's sports. And an Idaho Senate committee passed the resolution commending Boise State women's volleyball team for their forfeits. The new policy takes effect immediately and applies to all roughly 500,000 NCAA student athletes. We reached out to Attorney General Raul Labrador to find out how this affects Idaho's trans athlete ban lawsuit filed in 2020. We are waiting to hear back. At least one lawmaker and a religious lobbyist would like to see the Bible back in public school. Representative Jordan Redmond wants to require Bible passages be read in classrooms every day because, well, we used to do it.
For nearly 100 years, Idaho school children heard the Bible read at the start of each and every school day.
My view, to go back historically a little farther, is this country was settled by people that weren't moving to religion, they were moving away from state-mandated religion.
And just, I can't speak for all black people, but history and tradition tests just really make me nervous.
Right. Our history and traditions weren't exactly for everyone. Redmond's bill was printed, but we'll see if it gets a hearing.
I move that we recommend Senate Bill 1032 to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
The bill requiring a statewide cell phone ban passed out of committee today. Even though it doesn't say what each school policy would be or have any penalty for not implementing one, lawmakers still feel the need for state oversight. The bill now heads to the Senate floor.
It's a direct threat to every community.
The quagga saga continues. First, we doused the Mid-Snake River with chemicals to kill any of the invasive mussels. Then we did it again last fall, which did a pretty good job cleaning up the quagga. But just to be sure, the Idaho State Department of Agriculture is going to use new environmental DNA technology to survey the river to see if a third round of eradication is necessary. Either way, any out-of-state watercraft coming into Idaho can expect a thorough boat inspection. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Audrielle Tackett.
Well, if you stepped outside today and thought, man, it sure looks and feels like it could snow, you're not wrong. There is a winter storm on the way. It has not arrived yet, but we've had that cloud cover all day long. We're currently sitting in the upper 30s in Boise, mid 30s for Twin Falls, Sun Valley in the low 30s, and McCall hovering in those upper 20s. And here comes the snow. We're already seeing it pushing into the Owyhees. This storm is moving from southwest to northeast, and that's important because we'll likely see a lot of that rain shadowing effect across the Treasure Valley. So the snow you see that looks like it's headed our direction likely won't all make it our way. But still, we do have a first alert weather day tomorrow for the snow that will start falling tonight. Could lead to a slushy morning commute here in the Boise area, though at most, I think we see up to an inch for Caldwell, Nampa, Boise, Mountain Home, all the way through Twin Falls. But lower Treasure Valley of Oregon, out towards Ontario, up towards Weiser, and out into the mountains, we'll see heavier snowfall. Mountain valleys could see 4 to 8 inches. And then behind a front that comes through tomorrow morning, we will see very strong, blustery winds. We're talking 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So hold on to your hats and your small dogs tomorrow. Most of the precipitation in the Boise area should shut off by midday, likely turning to even some chilly rain off and on for Friday afternoon. Then the big headline is cold temperatures, highs only in the mid-30s starting on Saturday.
All right, let's get right to your comments. Larry says, I've lived in Idaho my entire life, and not once did any teacher read the Bible to any of us in my classrooms. There are way too many new people in Idaho talking about things they know nothing about. Actually, Larry, in 1925, Idaho had a law that said you had to do that. But then in 1963, the U.S. Supreme Court said such laws are unconstitutional. So it was there for a time, a bit. Leave it to the GOP to talk out of both sides of their mouths with abortion and the death penalty. How much more confused can they be? The state that really feels the need to have multiple ways to execute people really wants to kill people, says Rod in Boise. So nice to hear all these Christians supporting firing squads because, well, it's such a humane way to kill a person, says Patty in Boise. Maybe we could just strap the inmate to a chair and make them listen to the legislature. Oh, wait, that'd be cruel and unusual punishment, says Brad in Boise. I hope we did Janice McGeehan proud. Guns and Bibles today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.